That was fantastic. That was fantastic. If you're not excited about having a trademark and a patent, you should. Our next speaker is Terry Naulty. Please, Terry, coming up. He's the Assistant General Manager of Power Supply at Denton Municipal Electric, and we are so lucky to have him and share with us his findings and really journey around crypto mining in the ERCOT market. So please welcome to Terry, everybody.
Good morning. Thanks for inviting me to this conference. Talk a little bit about cryptocurrency and a little bit about Denton. Denton's a town of about 150,000 people just north of Dallas. It's one of the fastest growing communities in the U.S., top 10 in terms of population growth, about 8% per year. So very quickly growing. Now, how to advance? So we'll talk a little bit about our experience with this and why cryptocurrency is such a big issue here in Texas. So here's a graph that shows a projection of where cryptocurrency mining is going to be focused. And you can see that the U.S. is becoming the largest area for cryptocurrency mining. By 2023 or 26, we're looking at almost 30% of worldwide crypto mining here in Texas. Why? It's because pricing, and market design. We have an abundance of low-cost renewable energy here in the market. At night, prices can get actually negative, and so these cryptocurrency miners just churn right along during those periods of low prices to run their algorithms. ERCOT is currently predicting about 6,000 megawatts by the end of 2023, and this is a little bit dated slide. There's actually 32,000 megawatts of cryptocurrency mining in the transmission queue at ERCOT. And to give you a perspective on that, ERCOT peak demand this summer was about 79,000. So huge amount of potential load coming in from these types of resources. There we go. So we have a project in Denton. It's a 300 megawatt project by a company called Core Scientific. They're one of the largest, if not the largest, cryptocurrency mining company in the U.S. There's other projects in Rockdale, a 400 megawatt project called Marriott. And you can see the list of the other projects that we're aware of here in Texas that have been announced. The load characteristics of these types of facilities are very unique. They're about a 90–95% load factor. They run all the time, but they're fully interruptible. And so when we start to see scarcity events here in ERCOT, when prices get too high, these facilities can actually shut down and free up that power to serve other types of load. And that 32,000 does not include smaller facilities, 20 megawatts or below. And there are dozens and dozens of these 20 megawatt or below projects that we're starting to see come into Texas. We're working with a number of them in Denton. So Tenaska Power was the developer of this project. They worked for Core Scientific and helped them put together the deal with us. Our peak demand is about actually 390 now after this summer. You can see 300 megawatts is a big incremental gain for the city of Denton. So it's about 140% more annual energy that we'll sell to Core Scientific than we do to all of our customers combined. And it is about a 55% revenue growth for the city. It's a one-year construction cycle, and we actually lease property next to a peaking plant that we own on the northwest side of Denton. That was the key thing here is these facilities need a large capacity of transmission, and we had recently, in the last 10 years, built out a 700 MVA loop around the city to help bring renewables into the DFW market from West Texas. Here's where Denton is. You can see the star up there, just like I said, northwest of Dallas-Fort Worth. On the right there is the site, the power plant's in the middle, and the phase 1 and 2 are on the north and south side, about 150 megawatts on each. Here's just a real quick view of what it looks like. This is under construction. This is several months old, but you can see there's a control building on each side. There's a 138 kV substation. With the supply chain issues that we're seeing right now in the country, getting that equipment is the critical path. And then on the right there, you see phase 1A is the ant boxes. Those are modular mining units. Those are a temporary thing at this project. They'll ultimately be replaced with one of the large cathedral buildings that are being built. And here's one of those buildings under construction. They're longer than a football field, about half as wide as a football field. So they're big. We're a very big operation. So there's a total of 8 of these buildings going to be built with 2 smaller ones and control buildings on each side. Lots of risks associated with these types of transactions. I've listed the risks here. The biggest one is stability and the viability of cryptocurrency. Wholesale energy costs are very important, and you know, if you're in typical rate making for electric utility, you'd provide a fixed price for some period of time. That brings a huge amount of risk to the utility and the utility's customer base, because if there were a default by the cryptocurrency entity, then all those stranded assets, stranded costs would go onto the rate base. So we have to design around that. Here we are, you know, in September of 2022, we're going to see very large changes in the wholesale market here, I believe, in ERCOT, and those could adversely impact pricing or positively impact pricing. So it's another risk that we have to design around when we put these together. Revenue concentration. The rating agencies don't like it when a utility has so much revenue concentrated in one customer, but the unique structure of this transaction actually mitigates that risk. And then recovery of infrastructure costs. If we were to go out and build millions and millions of dollars of interconnection equipment, and then this operation were to fold up, that would be stranded costs that the rate base would end up having to pay. Last point I'll just touch on here is community support. It's important that the community support these, and there's a lot of discussion right now about whether or not these are adding additional carbon emissions to the atmosphere because of all this additional load. In Denton, we're a 100% renewable community, and one of the key cornerstones of our agreement is that all the energy for this facility is 100% renewable, and that's how we were able to gain community support. Also, these are air-cooled units, so there's no water demand associated with them. So here's the real risk is, what about customer stability? And I'm not a cryptocurrency expert, but if you just look at what the price of Bitcoin's done since November, you know, we've had a 70% decrease. It's hovering around $20,000 now. It's kind of found a floor. But you can see this type of volatility in the market certainly is a challenge to the cryptocurrency model. And that default risk of these operations potentially going away is a real significant one that we have to take into account as utilities structure these transactions. So we've already seen 2,000 failures of cryptocurrencies, types of cryptocurrencies, and we're likely to see some more. Here are two of the largest Bitcoin miners. You can see their curve, their stock price has followed the price of Bitcoin. And so again, this is a very volatile commodity that we need to be very careful about. So what's happening with ERCOT? ERCOT has developed a large flexible load task force, and they are requiring all units that are 75 megawatts or larger to enter into a transmission queue, and that's to assess the potential overloading of the transmission grid during operation. There's about a 2-year period to work through that queue or do the assessments. Again, this is a little dated. There's 32,000 now megawatts of data centers that are potentially in the grid, in the queue. One of the things that's a challenge for the industry right now is that ERCOT requires these units to be registered as controllable load resources, which means that they have to be able to react to frequency deviations in the grid and be able to move up and down with a SCADA signal from ERCOT. Currently, there's actually only one software provider that provides it. It's called Lancium, and there's a big dispute now about whether somebody developing their own technology is infringing on a patent. We just had a patent person up here talking about it. And so that could be a big limitation right now on the ability of these facilities to actually follow load and react in real time to signals that we get from ERCOT. These can go from full load to effectively zero in under 5 minutes, and consequently, they can provide regulation ancillary services. They can provide 2 of the 4 ancillary services, but not the other 2. So this is a real problem right now about whether these controllable load resources are actually a viable opportunity in ERCOT. There's another type of resource called a load resource, which would be able to either shut down when prices get high or when there's voltage issues, and they do qualify for that. So just to wrap up real quick, these are large loads with high load factors, and they bring potentially significant revenues to the communities that they're located in. As a municipal, much of that, there is a portion of the revenues that come in that can be used by the utility to offset the increasing rate pressure that we have. It also throws off quite a bit of money to the city in the form of franchise fee and a return on investment. So what we've seen is that with the lower cryptocurrency prices and high electric prices, we've seen a very rational behavior of the cryptocurrency mining. They do shut down when prices get high, and during the summer when ERCOT asked for conservation, virtually all these facilities were offline. It's in their best interest to do that, because if they have hedges in place, they can liquidate the hedges into that high price market and make money by not hashing. The tariffs that we traditionally use in our business, municipal-owned utilities, really are not recommended here because they could shift these commercial risks to our existing ratepayers. And so what we've done is we've generally recommended bilateral power purchase agreements that specify the specific interruptions, our ability to interrupt these resources, how to make sure that those price risks are not moved over to our rate base. And if we structure them properly, we can mitigate the revenues, the revenue concentration and grid reliability concerns. So with that, right on time. Excellent. Thanks.
Thank you.